The day of the Trifid, when terror rained from the sky. The day of the Trifid, when the Earth orbits into a nightmare. When the solid world of everyday reality disintegrates. The whole population is driven by fear towards insanity. The day of the Trifid, when destruction closes in from every side.
Tyler, you blind too?
Going to be starvation, fire, pestilence. One caught in the middle of it doesn't stand a chance. I think we ought to get out of here and go on to Spain.
How can you know it's any better?
I don't.
Doesn't seem to have any central nervous system.
Then how does it move?
All plants move. They don't usually pull themselves out of the ground and chase you.
The day of the Trifid, when law and order are overwhelmed in an avalanche of terror.
Foolish mortal, you have inadvertently tuned into the forbidden frequency. It's Zombie Astronaut's Frequency of Fear.
Garden Center on 2280, Garden Center, line 2280.
What do you think? Does this lab coat make my butt look fabulous?
Why do you always drag me on trips to the JC Parrigin's department store? I mean, other than to make me comment on how your butt looks in various lab coats. For hours.
Garden Center, the phone call's back again on 2280 when you're ready.
I have to try on as many lab coats as possible. I have to look awe-inspiring. The last thing I want is to finally topple the UN, and instead of gracing every newspaper in the world under headlines like Despicable rules New World Order beneath Iron Fist and Despicable resplendent and stunning JC Parrigin lab coat as he crushes all who oppose him, I'd be trapped beneath the headline, Dr. Despicable. What's up with that caboose?
I don't think...
Well, clearly you don't. I will not be feared out of pity for suspected gluteal deformities. Now, how does my butt look? Is it simply captivating?
Doc.
What, is it only mildly captivating? Oh, I can't settle for mildly captivating.
Is there anyone that can help out with a phone call for the Garden Center on 2280, please?
Speaking of butts, I wish someone would get their butt to gardening. That's so distracting. My full concentration should be on how these lab coats frame my posterior.
Maybe the staff is too captivated by your butt to assist anyone in gardening.
Really? Perhaps I should stand like this, to make it more prominent.
Oh, God, somebody shoot me.
Anything for my future minions.
Make sure it's a head wound.
Dales Floor, I really need someone to help out with this garden call on 2280. It's come back for the fourth time.
Oh, that does it. If there isn't a single person here willing to do whatever is necessary to make my shopping experience as marvelous as my behind, I must take matters into my own hands.
Look, you go right ahead. There's a Glutton Baby's Burger Barn in JC Parrigin, so I'm going to get a snack. I saw a college chess team in there, so I should be able to eat some exceptional brains while we're here.
I can't even rely on you for support. Trust a zombie to think with his stomach in my time of need. Granted, your stomach is usually full of brains, but that's not the point.
Sorry, I'm already ignoring you.
I'll show you. I'll show you all. I'll take over the JC Parrigin's gardening department. Me, Dr. Despicable, genius, iconoclast, rebel, loner. Or am I a loner before I'm a rebel? Well, I'll hash that out later. Now, where was I? It's showing everybody, genius, taking over, yada, 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 so on and so forth, ad infinitum. Today, the gardening department. Tomorrow, the world. spoil the world's gardening department anyway. I have to pace myself.
Brittany, does it fit?
Hello there. Welcome to JC Parrigin's.
Why, hello, professional JC Parrigin's greeter.
Professional greeter indeed. If he was a member of my crew, we'd kill him for being useless. Then we'd feed him to the not quite as useless crew members to keep up their strength so we could torture them.
I want one of these. Oh! I'd rather have one of these. No, wait! I'll take one of these instead.
Oh, look at Salty Sam having fun.
Ow!
What did I tell you about having fun?
I think I swallowed part of my face.
Wow, you sure are good at the slapping.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Van Martinez. I took advanced slapping at community college. Why, I can slap the lips off a pufferfish from 10 feet away.
Captain Bone Marrow. Dr. Von Martinez.
Mr. Astronaut.
Hey, that dead guy I know.
Ahoy there, Mr. Astronaut.
Salty Sam. I haven't seen you in a while. What have you been up to?
Not having fun, that's for sure.
That's a lad.
So, dead guy I know.
Zombie Astronaut.
No, little boy. Me, Wilhelm von Martinez. Who is this sappy Afro puff you speak of?
What?
So what brings you to JC Parrigin's? I'm here for a lazy Susan.
I actually came here with Dr. Despicable. He's here looking for lab coats.
Oh, sweet Poseidon. So how many hours have you had to talk to him about his gluteus maximus?
Only 2 this time. He suddenly felt compelled to assist customers in the gardening department.
Well, that can't end well.
Pardon?
A mad scientist? In a gardening department?
Ah, for some reason that hadn't occurred to me. Care to visit the gardening department?
Oh, maybe I'll find my lazy Susan.
Field trip!
Field trip! Field trip! Field trip! Field trip!
It's good to know I'll get my recommended daily allowance of stupid today. All right, Mr. Zombie, lead on.
Well, while we try to stop Doc from doing anything typical of Doc, why don't you listen to this first bit of OTR? It's funny that Doc should end up in the gardening department, as this podcast is plant-related. Our first blossom of plant-related OTR is an excerpt from an episode of the late, great Nelson Olmsted's Sleep No More. Listen now to Mr. Olmsted's reading of H.G. Wells' The Flowering of the Strange Orchid.
Sleep no more. Sleep no more. Turn down the lights. Sink back in your chair and don't look into the shadows. In the shadows, there may be moving things. Tonight, it may be, you will sleep no more. What's next on tonight's bill? A story by one of the most distinguished and imaginative of all English writers, Ben, H.G. Wells. The story is all about a most unusual flower. In fact, the tale is called The Flowering of the Strange Orchid. The buying of orchids always has in it a certain speculative flavor. You have before you the brown, shriveled lump of tissue, and for the rest you must trust your judgment, or the auctioneer, or your good luck, as your taste may incline. The plant may be moribund, or dead, or it may be just a respectable purchase, fair value for your money, or perhaps, for the thing has happened again and again, there slowly unfolds before the delighted eyes of the happy purchaser, day after day, some new variety, some novel richness, a strange twist of the labellum, or some subtler coloration or unexpected mimicry. Pride, beauty, and profit blossom together on one delicate green spike, and it may be even immortality. For the new miracle of nature may stand in need of a new specific name, and what so convenient is that of its discoverer? John Smithia. There have been worse names. It was perhaps the hope of some such happy discovery that made Winter Wedderburn such a frequent attendant at these sales. That hope, and also maybe the fact that he had nothing else of the slightest interest to do in the world. He was a shy, lonely, rather ineffectual man, provided with just enough income to keep off the spur of necessity and not enough nervous energy to make him seek any exacting employment. He might have collected stamps or coins or translated Horace or bound books or invented a new species of diatoms. But as it happened, he grew orchids and had one ambitious little hothouse. Over his coffee this particular morning, he said, "You know, I've a fancy that something is going to happen to me today." And his housekeeper, who was also his remote cousin, said, "Oh, well, don't say that." Now, you misunderstand me. But I mean nothing unpleasant, though what I do mean I scarcely know. Today, they're going to sell a batch of plants from the Andamans and the Indies. I shall go up and see what they have. Maybe I shall buy something good, unawares. Yeah, that may be it. Nothing ever does happen to me. I wonder why. Things enough happen to other people. I wonder how it feels to have something happen to you, something really remarkable. Oh, you know, that orchid collector, Fred Batten, he was only 36, 20 years younger than myself when he died. And he'd been married twice, divorced once, he'd had malarial fever 4 times, and once he broke his thigh. He killed a Malay once, and once he was wounded by a poisoned dart. And in the end, he was killed by jungle leeches. Must have been very troublesome. But then it must have been very interesting, you know. Oh, except perhaps the leeches. Well, I'm sure it wasn't good for him. I suppose the next thing you'll be saying, you wish you was eaten by leeches. When he returned from London that afternoon, he was in a state of mild excitement. He had made a purchase. It was rare that he could make up his mind quickly enough to buy, but this time he had done so. He was telling his cousin all about his trip and his purchases as he slowly meandered through his dinner. I knew something would happen today, and I've bought all these orchid rooks. Some of them well, I feel sure, do you know that some of them will be remarkable? I don't know how it is, but I feel just as sure as if someone had told me that some of these will turn out remarkable. Now that one, that shriveled little root, wasn't even identified. It may be a Paleonophus, or it may not. It may be a new species, or even a new genus. And do you know, it was the last that poor Fred Batten ever collected. His housekeeper sniffed. Well, I don't like the looks of it. It has such an ugly shape. Weddenburn smiled and surveyed the root with his head on one side. Well, it's certainly not a pretty lump of stuff. But you can never judge these things from their dry appearance. It may turn out to be a very beautiful orchid indeed. Oh, how busy I shall be tomorrow. You know, they found poor Batten lying dead or dying in a mangrove swamp. Now, I forget which, with one of these very orchids crushed up under his body. He'd been unwell for some days with some kind of native fever, and I suppose he fainted. These mangrove swamps are very unwholesome. Every drop of blood, they say, was taken out of him by the jungle leeches. Well, it may be that very plant that cost him his life to obtain. The natives of his party were sufficiently civilized to take care of all his collection until his colleague, who was an ornithologist, came back from the interior. Though they couldn't tell the species of the orchid and had let it wither. And it makes these things more interesting. Yeah? Well, it makes them more disgusting to me. I should be afraid of some of the malaria clinging to them. And just think, there's been a dead body lying across that ugly thing. Oh, well, I never thought of that before. There, I declare, I can't eat another mouthful of dinner. The next few days he was indeed singularly busy in his steamy little hothouse, fussing about with charcoal, lumps of teak, moss, and all the other mysteries of the orchid cultivator. He considered he was having a wonderfully eventful time. In the evening, he would talk about these new orchids to his friends, and over again he reverted to his expectation of something strange. Several of the Vandas in the Denobrium died under his care, but presently the strange orchid began to show signs of life. He was delighted and took his housekeeper right away from her jam-making to see it at once, and he said, this is a bud, and presently there will be a lot of leaves there, and those little things coming out here are aerial rootlets. Well, They look to me like little white fingers poking out of the brown. No, I don't like them. Why not? I don't know. They look like fingers trying to get at you. I can't help my likes and my dislikes. I don't know for certain, but I don't think there are any orchids I know that have aerial rootlets quite like that. It may be my fancy, of course. I don't like them. I can't help thinking of that corpse, that poor Mr. Batten, giving up his life for that thing with funny fingers hanging off it. But it may not have been that particular plant. That was merely a guess of mine. Anyhow, I don't like it. Wedderburn felt a little hurt at her dislike to the plant, but that didn't prevent his talking to her about orchids generally, and this orchid in particular, whenever he felt inclined. At last, the great thing happened. Directly he entered the little glass house some days later, he knew that the spike of the plant had burst out. There was a new odor in the air, a rich, intensely sweet odor that overpowered every other in that crowded, steaming little greenhouse. Directly he noticed this, he hurried down to the strange orchid, and behold, the trailing green spikes bore now 3 great splashes of blossom from which this overpowering sweetness proceeded. He stopped before them in an ecstasy of admiration. The flowers were white with streaks of gold and orange upon the petals, and a wonderful bluish purple mingled there with the gold. He could see at once that the genus was altogether a new one. And the insufferable scent. How hot the place was. The blossoms swam before his eyes. The aerial rootlets he could see were now very long. He made a step toward the thermometer. Suddenly, everything appeared unsteady. The bricks on the floor were dancing up and down. Then the white blossoms, the green leaves behind. Then the whole greenhouse seemed to sweep sideways, and then in a curve up. At 4:30, his cousin made the tea according to their invariable custom. But Wedderburn didn't come in for his tea. He's worshipping that horrid orchid, she told herself, and waited 10 minutes. His watch must have stopped. I'll go and call him. She went straight to the hothouse, and opening the door, called his name. There was no reply. She noticed that the air was very close and loaded with an intense perfume. Then she saw something lying in the bricks between the hot water pipes. For a minute, perhaps, she stood motionless. He was lying face upward at the foot of the strange orchid. The tentacle-like aerial rootlets no longer swayed freely in the air, but were crowded together, a tangle of gray ropes, and stretched tight with their ends closely applied to his chin and neck and hands. She didn't understand. Then she saw from under one of the tentacles upon his cheek there trickled a little thread of blood. With an inarticulate cry, she ran toward him and tried to pull him away from the leech-like suckers. She snapped 2 of these tentacles, and their sap dripped red. Then the overpowering scent of the blossom began to make her head reel. How they clung to him! She tore at those tough ropes. She felt she was fainting, knew she must not. She left him and hastily opened the nearest door, and after she'd panted for a moment in the fresh air, she had a brilliant inspiration. She caught up a flower pot and smashed in the windows at the end of the greenhouse. Then she re-entered. She tugged now with renewed strength at Wedderburn's motionless body and brought the strange orchid crashing to the floor. It still clung with a grimmest tenacity to its victims. In a frenzy, she lugged it and him into the open air. Then she thought of tearing through the sucker rootlets one by one. And in another minute, she had released him and was dragging him away from the horror. He was white and bleeding from a dozen circular patches. Wedderburn had lost a good deal of blood, but beyond that he had suffered no great injury. They gave him brandy mixed with some pink extract of meat and carried him upstairs to bed. His housekeeper told her incredible story in fragments to Dr. Haddon, and she said, "Come in the orchid house and see." Well, the cold outer air was blowing in through the open door, and the sickly perfume was almost dispelled. Most of the torn aerial rootlets lay already withered amidst a number of dark stains upon the bricks. The stem of the orchid was broken by the fall of the plant, and the flowers were growing limp and broken at the edges of the petals. The doctor stooped toward it. Then, seeing that one of the aerial rootlets still stirred feebly, he hesitated. The next morning, the strange orchid still lay there, black now and putrescent. The door banged intermittently in the morning breeze, and all the array of Wedderburn's orchids had shriveled and were prostrate. But Wedderburn himself was bright and garrulous upstairs in the glory of his strange adventure. You can turn up the lights now. You can look around you. Nobody is there, really. Everything is all right, isn't it?
Greetings, this is Taliesin TTLG, invading the frequency of fear to talk vegetables. Now, when I thought about vegetables and flora generally in the vampire genre, my mind went straight to apotropes, devices used to ward off evil, and there are many used within the genre, though they are not always successful. These are three of the ones that are based on vegetation. One of the least mentioned apotropes is hawthorn, and the best example I can give of its use is in the Hammer film Satanic Rites of Dracula, which saw the last performance by Christopher Lee as the Count in a Hammer movie. At the finale, Van Helsing, played by Peter Cushing, stumbles into hawthorn, and remembering its properties, tricks Dracula into it. The hawthorn both slows him and injures him. He manages to break free, sways of the stuff still on him, but Van Helsing has found a fence post and stakes the Count. Many complain about the ending. A tree stopping Dracula, they say? Ridiculous! I think it's actually a great ending despite itself. The hawthorn tree is traditionally an apotrope. Also, given the story of the film and the fact that Dracula tried to bring about the Armageddon, you need to look at him as he's swathed in hawthorn. It looks as though he is wearing a crown of thorns, and I don't believe that this was by accident. Dracula here is being raised to the level of Antichrist, the filmmakers intimating that he is finally given recognition for being the ultimate evil. Next we have the rose. In Stoker's Dracula, wild rose is mentioned, and the idea is that a sprig of wild rose across a grave will stop a vampire rising. This is straight from myth. However, roses generally are used in some films. In recent computer game-orientated Stay Alive, in which the villain of the game is Countess Bathory, players can drop roses to escape peril. As the game invades reality, this device still holds true. A rose is used to great effect in flick Fright Night Part 2. A rose thrust into the mouth of vampire Louis bursts into flames, allowing Brewster and his girlfriend Alex to escape his clutches. It doesn't kill him, but it certainly hurts. Of course, the most famous has to be garlic. Used throughout the genre, it is often more surprising when garlic doesn't work, such as in the film Lost Boys. When sprinkled on food instead of parmesan, it has no effect, when Sam is trying to detect whether Max is a vampire. Of course, the film made its own rules, and Max, who is a vampire, is unaffected by much of anything disease being invited in. But when the vampire teens indulge in home invasion, we discover again that it doesn't work. Luckily, the bulbs are suspended in a bath of holy water, which does work. Garlic is also used in modernistic films such as the Blade series, where extract of garlic is used as a weapon to devastating effect, due to the vampire's extreme allergy to the substance. To get more information on these and many more vampire movies and books, visit Taliesin Meets the Vampires at taliesinTTLG.blogspot.com. Alternatively, find the link in the links of the Zombie Astronaut.
It's our flower fancier, Mrs. Bryce. What's that? You'd care for a walk in the garden? Of course. The flowers have been waiting for you.
Oh, what beautiful orchid. I must have one.
No picking. Too late. You watch out for the bees now. Run, Mrs. Bryant. Run toward that giant orchid. have picked those flowers. After all, they didn't pick her. Or did they?
Sam! Sam! Get that baby out of your mouth. Put it back in the basket.
Sorry.
Oh, hi, fellow astronauts. You just listened to a track from the William Castle Halloween novelty album, Ghost Story, thrilling, chilling sounds of fright and the supernatural. That's all I really had to say.
Then, once you remove the electrodes and check the stitches for seepage, you feed it a stray cat or something to get it to stop crying. And that's where babies come from.
I don't think that's right. Anyway, I didn't ask you where babies come from. I asked you if you had any African violets.
Oh, did you? Well, let's see. I wonder if there are any in here. Nope, not over here. Oh, wait, here's an African violet.
That's a potato rake.
Is it? So I'm getting warmer. Well, this looks African and violet-y.
Put me down.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Wait, I see one there.
Let's see this violet.
I got it. Thanks anyway.
Hold on just one moment.
What?
Oh, that's pathetic. No wonder I had no idea that was an African violet. It's pathetic.
It is?
Why, certainly. But if you want a wimpy plant your friends will laugh about behind your back...
Well, no, not really.
Well then, thanks to certain advances in mad science, made entirely by yours truly, you could take home a splendid plant.
Really?
A magnificent plant.
Really?
A plant that could make that chump neighbor of yours rue the day he rubbed his new sports car in your face, in front of your mother-in-law, at your last annual neighborhood barbecue.
Really? Wait, how did you know about that thing at my barbecue?
Oh, I've been borrowing internal organs from the couple you share a fence with for over a year.
Oh, that explains why they drool so much now. Hey, could you take care of that chihuahua while you're at it?
Done and done. Now, because I like the cut of your jib, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
What's a jib?
Because I like the cut of your jib, not only will I spray this plant down with a dangerous dose of Miracle Gross mutating plant food, I have my own special anabolic plant protein enhancer that will make this the most impressive plant in your entire neighborhood.
Wow.
And the annual neighborhood barbecue is coming up.
You're right. Okay. What do I need to do?
Not a thing. Just put the plant over there and allow me to, pimp your violet.
Awesome.
Captain Bone Marrow! Captain Bone Marrow!
Just a moment.
Captain Bone Marrow will never make it to the gardening department if you don't get out of the women's lingerie.
Why does the sign say that anyway?
Say what?
Women's lingerie. It's not like there's a men's lingerie section. I've looked.
I really don't know, Dr. Von Martinez.
Because I'd wear some.
Salty undies! Salty undies!
Take those off, Sam.
Okay, must not have fun.
What are you doing in here?
Oh, bless my boots. Oh, hi there, Sheila. Oh.
Get out of here!
What's going on?
What are the chances I'd walk into a dressing room and run into a woman who took the same slapping classes at my community college?
Would you guys stop wasting time? We have to get to gardening before Doc does something... Well, before he does anything whatsoever, really.
Wait till the guys at my reading circle see this.
Bye now. Come back soon.
I'm thinking it's too late. Well, while we go forth into inevitable disaster, you might as well listen to some more OTR. Now, fellow astronauts, I swear this is not an orchid-themed podcast. However, our next story does in fact have orchids in it. And although they don't suck blood, and they don't swallow people whole, they're pretty unsavory all the same. Listen now to Vanishing Point, the language of flowers.
Come out into the garden. Isn't it lovely? Of course it's night. The flowers are closed up tight. Most of them. There is one whose blossom defies the diurnal cycle. I'll show her to you. let me lead you down the garden path to the vanishing point.
God hands out sensitivity like beauty, in very unequal measures. And though it is an endowment essential to the poet, to a bank manager dealing with mortgages and loans, sensitivity is an awkward encumbrance.
Mr. Herman, Colonel Cleary is overdrawn again, and he'd like to arrange...
Mr. Anderson says he can't meet this month's payment. He wants to arrange an extension.
Mr. Herman, Mrs. Shelford's here about the foreclosure notice she got today. She says she can't possibly...
For 35 years, Henry Herman went to his duties like a man to his execution. And after work, he returned home to his beloved garden, like a man who had been granted a reprieve. Wherever the bank transferred him, he would start a new garden first thing, no matter how calamitous the climate or soil. Herman's plants thrived. His gardens were a wonder to see, and each time he was transferred, it pained him to leave them. Then one day...
Mr. Brown from the head office is here to see you, Mr. Herman.
Oh, Mr. Brown.
Yes, the personnel manager.
Oh, yes. Oh, well, show him in, please.
Well, Herman.
Hello.
Must be, 5 years since we've seen each other.
The Christmas party 4 years ago.
Yes, of course. That was it. Yeah. Yes. Oh, well, we've seen a lot of changes since then, haven't we, eh?
Well, yes.
New technology, expansion, growth.
Expansion? Oh, you're not thinking of transferring me again, are you?
No. Oh, actually, Herman, we're thinking of retiring you.
Retiring? But, Mr. Brown, I've got 5 years to go.
Why wait 5 years? We've worked out a scheme so you can retire 1 month from today. And look, here are the figures. The pension's quite generous.
It's a pittance. I had hoped there'd be enough for a bit of travelling. More tea?
Please.
We might save a bit if we moved to a small house in the country.
Well, I wouldn't want to move and start a new garden. I've worked on this one, dear, for 10 years now. You know, it's the best and biggest I've ever had. I couldn't pack up and abandon it.
But you can't let a few plants take over your life.
Oh, no, of course not. Well, I'd best get out and water down those shrubs. Oh, lovely dinner, sweet.
Good morning, Mr. Herman.
Oh, good morning, Louise.
Here are some messages.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Colonel Cleary is in your office waiting to see you.
Oh, good. Thank you, yes. Good morning, Colonel. Bit strapped again. I think we...
Daisies, is this about your retiring?
Yes. Well, it's my last day, I'm afraid. You know the old saying, though, retire while you can still enjoy it. So...
Stuff and nonsense. You're hardly more than a boy. I suppose they'll replace you with some young pup with no idea how to deal with a gentleman.
Well, I don't think that.
Well, here's a package for you.
For me?
A small gesture, a mark of appreciation, you know.
What is it?
Well, open the ruddy thing. Here, let me.
Oh.
There you are.
Oh. Oh, it's beautiful. It's an orchid.
Yes, I grew it myself. Did you ever see a blossom so blue?
Never. It's magnificent. What kind is it?
It's a Vanda Corolea. Hybridized.
Oh, yes.
Parent plant comes from northern India. Saw my first one when I was stationed there in the uplands.
Does it have a scent?
What's the time?
The time. I make it 20 to 10.
Oh, you wouldn't notice a perfume now. Too early. Sun's not high enough yet.
I don't understand.
Well, it's perfectly simple. The plant's not mad, you know. Puts out perfume when the insects are about, so that pollination sets in during the heat of the day.
Well, that's clever, isn't it?
And see these leaves here?
Yes.
They always point from east to west. You know, if you turn the ruddy thing north and south, the leaves turn themselves east and west again.
Really? Oh, never owned an orchid before, Colonel. I don't know what to say.
The ruddy thing will talk to you when you get to know it. If it gives you any trouble, give me a call. Your replacement arrived yet?
We were introduced yesterday.
Well, if he doesn't come up to scratch, I'll move my account. You can tell him that, whoever he is. Well, a last handshake, what?
Yes.
Goodbye and good luck. And I don't mind telling you, I'm really sorry to see you go.
There was a little party in the bank after closing, and Herman went home with the silver tray and the Vanda Corolea. In his garden he looked about and sighed. The daily reprieve for which he had lived now stretched before him forever.
Henry, you'd better have your dinner before you start planting that orchid.
Oh, well, it's not going in the garden, sweets. It has to be indoors.
Oh? Why?
Needs humidity. It's from India, you know.
Oh. I thought it looked jungly.
Yeah. Isn't it a beauty?
I don't know. There's something almost evil about it.
Evil? How can a flower be evil?
Well, for one thing, aren't orchids parasites? I think I read that somewhere.
Oh, I'll have to live off something, don't we? I mean, look at the color. It's beautiful. I thought I'd put it in the living room by the window.
Oh, we can't have it in the living room. It's not right.
Not right for what?
Well, the furniture, everything. It wouldn't go at all. What are all those crawly things hanging outside the pot?
Those are its roots.
Well, I don't think they're very pretty.
But look at the blossom. And the leaves. Did you notice the shape of the leaves?
Yes, they look just like those hooded cobras.
Oh. Well, I suppose I could put it out of the way in the bedroom.
The bedroom? I don't want that plant in the house at all. Now come and have your dinner before it's ruined. I thought you might like to come shopping with me tomorrow. We could look at paints. The house is a sight, inside and out.
Yes, well, I must get around to it, but I'd like a few days to tidy up the garden a bit first. You know, get the feel of retirement, you know. Well, I guess I better pull a few weeds. Oh, lovely dinner sweets.
Retired at his age. Women can't retire. Cooking and cleaning go on forever. I'm going shopping now, Henry. I've left a list of things that need repairing on the table. Every tap in the house is dripping. Oh, and remember to get that plant out of the house. It's got a nasty jungly smell that's stinking up the living room.
Nasty jungly smell? You better have a look. Well, how's the Vanda this one? Oh, what on earth's happened to you? You're so pale. Is it too hot next to the window? Okay, here, let's move you to a more shaded spot. Down here, on the floor, leaves east to west. How's that now? Well, I'll be blessed. Your color's coming back already. You like that, do you? I thought I smelled. Oh, it is your perfume. So sweet. But you're all mixed up, you know. It's only 9 o'clock. Oh, I see. You were thanking me. But we are in a bit of a pickle. My wife won't have you inside the house, and you must have shelter. I've been thinking of building a little greenhouse for you. A little house, all your own. What would you think of that? If I bought the materials today, I could put it up in no time.
It took the men at the lumber yard a long time to cut the materials to Herman's specifications. He supervised impatiently, worried that his wife might have already moved the orchid, perhaps north to south, or worse, out of the house altogether.
that you, Henry? It's almost 6 o'clock. Where have you been all day?
I'll be right there. I'll just look in on the Vanda. Oh, my God. What did you do to the Vanda?
Who, me?
Yes.
I wouldn't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole. Where have you been all day?
Why is it drooping like that?
What are you talking about? Coming home at 6 in the evening, not a bit of work done, and going on about flowers drooping.
Well, look at her. She's dying. Here. Up you come on the table. Poor thing. Let's have a look.
What a fuss.
Look, it's coming back. I just picked it up, and it's coming back.
And it's going out tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I bought a greenhouse for her.
A greenhouse? You spent money on a greenhouse?
They're delivering the materials this evening.
When we have to make do on a pittance?
I'll have it up by tomorrow.
When every room needs repainting? I've heard that retired men go senile, but I didn't expect it in 24 hours.
In the next month, Herman divided his time between painting his kitchen and tending the orchid. He formed the habit of drinking his morning tea in the greenhouse, carrying it out in his favorite cup.
Tea for me, and a bit of water for you. That's my girl.
In his communion with the Vanda, there was no obstacle of words to confuse their triumphant understanding, no meanness of ego to blight their perfect rapport. The language by which they communicated was a precious thing in itself.
Henry! I thought I'd find you here. I need some help. What on earth have you got there?
This? Oh, a little bell I picked up. Thought I'd put it over the door there. Supposed to be from an Indian temple.
Mm-hmm. You realize, of course, that our door chimes haven't worked for 6 months?
Mrs. Herman took to complaining about the time Herman spent in the greenhouse. Relations between them became painfully strained. Sometimes Herman found himself comparing his wife to the orchid, unfavorably.
Good to see you again, Colonel. How are you?
I didn't mind telling you I'm shifting my account. That ruddy replacement of yours is an out-and-out untouchable. How's the orchid?
Actually, that's what I've come to see you about.
Everything all right?
I'm afraid not.
What's the trouble? Any fungus? Wet spiders? Snails?
Nothing like that. No, she would have mentioned it, you know.
Mentioned?
Yeah, well, she would have let me know immediately. No. She hasn't been herself lately.
Ruddy, sorry to hear it. And the orchid?
And she's been looking very peaked, Colonel. She no longer welcomes me with waves of perfume when I have tea with her. And she's making more and more demands on me. Whenever I leave, she droops, most pathetically.
A specialist should put it right.
That's why I've come to you.
Oh, well, I say I couldn't interfere in that.
See, I can't help wondering if she wants to breed.
Good Lord, Herman.
I thought perhaps you could show me how to cross an orchid.
An orchid? Oh, of course, yes. An orchid. Let's go to my orchid room.
A magnificent collection, Colonel.
Over here, on this table.
Yes.
Now, here's a fine, robust male.
Oh, yes.
Now, here's what you do. See, here in the centre, that's the lip.
Yes.
This protuberance over the lip is what we call the column.
The column.
Yeah. Now, you break the column off with your fingers.
Yes.
Like this. Do you see? And there are the pollinia.
Those 2 little yellow seeds.
Quite. Now, we'll take this female, and right under here is her anther.
Yes.
Now, you take the male's pollinia and gently squeeze them onto the anther. So.
Is that all?
That's all. And when the stem below the flower head swells, well, you know the ruddy thing's pregnant.
Wow. Very sexy, isn't it?
Well, you need something with size and texture to cross with that Vanda you got.
Yeah.
Something rounded with meat in the petals to build up a figure of it.
What would you suggest?
Well, I could let you have a cymbidium I've got called Falstaff.
Are you sure he'd be right for her?
You couldn't do better. She'll get something ruddy good out of it. This one over here. This is Falstaff.
Oh.
Well, it ought to invigorate her,
But
what?
his leaves are so coarse. I mean, those red blotches. He looks diseased.
Oh, no, he's just recovering from a touch of the fungus. Now, I'll give you a bottle of poison to spray him with, but be ruddy careful. Orchid poisons are deadly dangerous. Give your hands a ruddy good scrubbing after you use it.
Well, Falstaff, here's the greenhouse. Shall we go in and meet the lady? And a good afternoon to the lady of the house. Look what I've brought you. This is Falstaff. He's going to live here with you. Isn't he a fine fellow? I'll just put the two of you together side by side, and you can get to know each other. What do you think of that? I thought you'd be delighted to have a companion. Well, we'll fix that. I'll give you a good dose of fertilizer, then we'll see. As for you, Falstaff, I'd better spray you with that poison. Wouldn't want you giving her the fungus. Better keep track of all this. Well, where's that old journal of mine? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Did you two get acquainted last... Good Lord, what happened? You pulled all your roots back into your pot. That's sheer petulance. Well, come on, Falstaff. It's the far end of the bench until she gets used to you. Perhaps we were a bit impetuous the first night and all that. Better make a note of this in my journal. Let's see. Today's October the 24th. I foresee trouble. She doesn't like my arrangements and refuses to cooperate. So, I'll let you get used to each other until tomorrow, then. Good morning again. Have a good night, did we? I see your roots have assumed their usual pattern. You see, Falstaff's not a bad sort. So, Falstaff, back you go beside her. October 28th. Still making no progress. November 3rd. When I came in this morning, she turned the most. November 6th, ghastly. I've tried every way to placate her and am feeling greatly distressed. November 9. I should give up trying, but her behavior is making me stubborn.
Not yet, eh? Well, what seems to be the trouble?
Well, she absolutely rejects Falstaff. Absolutely.
Why don't you impregnate her as I showed you?
Yeah.
Have it rub you over and done with.
Colonel, somehow it doesn't seem proper to impregnate her without, first obtaining her consent, as it were.
November the 13th was a black day. The Vanda had caught Falstaff's fungus.
November 13. I wouldn't be surprised if this is her way of blackmail. She knows I'm afraid of the poison.
Look what came in the mail. Joe and Mary is getting engaged. They're having a house party, and we're invited to stay the weekend.
Pass me that fertilizer, would you, sweet?
Did you hear? Joan, my sister Joan, has invited us for a weekend.
That's nice. Let's see, 1 ounce to a gallon. You have to go on your own, though, sweet.
Go on my own? To a weekend party? To the engagement of your own niece?
I can't get away.
Nonsense. You're retired. You can get away any time you like.
I can't just now. I'm having trouble with the orchids.
You're insane. Do you know that? Who else drinks tea with orchids?
You don't understand, darling, how
I'd like to
orchids
throw
need
those orchids out and you with them.
The fungus could spread and kill them.
Oh, that would be a happy
look
day.
After them. Look, once I get the fungus
Putting
under
fungus
control,
ahead of your
I'll
own
be able
niece.
to get away.
That's right. Go back to your ugly, stinking flowers. You spend all your time with them anyway. I never see you.
Stubborn, bull-headed women. I've been too easy with a lot of you. Well, we'll see who's lord and master around here. Right, Falstaff? Oh, yes. Your day has come too, my man. Let's see those fine columns of yours. Off with your cap and make your acquaintance with the lady. Fine, robust seeds for her ladyship's answer. Enough sulking, bullying, pouting. Enough. Forgive me, please. Oh, please forgive me. Are you in there, dear?
Go away.
I'm truly sorry. I don't know what came over me.
Go back to your greenhouse.
I've just made a pot of tea. Shall I bring you a cup?
You can take your tea out to your greenhouse like you always do.
Oh, maybe I will then, if you don't mind. I have to update my journal. You sure you don't mind?
Oh, go away!
Look, I've come to have tea with you. I'm sorry about what happened. I'll make it up to you. Give your fungus a nice, gentle spraying. Would you like that? I'm forgiven then. Now, let's put this over here on the table, out of harm's way, while I spray you. Almost like a ritual cleansing, isn't it? Washing away the stain, that sort of thing. Bit extra today. Under and over the leaves. Oh, you're dripping. There. Okay, now, you can sit up here on the ledge by me, dry off a bit, while I have my tea and write up the journal. Now, where to begin? Today, Falstaff. Today, we...
The poison trickles down the vanda's spikes and collects in the nodes of the leaves. One node fills. The poison spills out and fills the node beneath it.
A sad day. Things between us will never be the same.
The last node fills. The leaves that flare from the stem like a cobra's hood slowly change their alignment. The bottom leaf reaches out like a tongue, and the poison splashes into the tea.
So, this is his greenhouse. Only 2 plants in it. Oh, this blue thing's a fantastic color.
Funny leaves. Look at that one drooping over his cup. accounting for taste.
Well, she said he'd been acting very strangely. She said she went to her room after the quarrel. Didn't find him till around 2 o'clock.
Well, he made a good job of it. The doctor said he had enough poison in him to kill a horse.
I'll never understand suicides.
Well, he could have been worried by his retirement. It gets some of them like that. They think they must be over the hill.
Look at this.
What is it?
Looks like some sort of journal. Just listen to this. I foresee trouble. She doesn't like my arrangements and refuses to cooperate. November 6th. I have tried every way to placate her and am greatly distressed. November 11. I'm fed up being bullied by women. November 13. I wouldn't be surprised if this is her way of blackmail. She knows I'm afraid of the poison.
Hey, let me see that. She knows I'm afraid of the poison.
She's still in the house. We better get back there.
Smell a sort of perfume.
Poor Herman. He should have known better than to cross an unwilling orchid. And of course he should have been more careful about where and with whom he took his tea. After all, there is many a slip twixt cup and vanishing point.
I have no idea where the gardening department is. Thought we were there already, considering the amount of plant growth everywhere.
Watch out for the spiny ninja plant whip thingy! With the spines! And the plants!
Plant growth all over the floor. Plant growth all over the shelves. Holy crap! Plant growth all over the customers.
Plant growth inside the customers, Mr. Zombie. That there landlubber is turning into a plant person. Please kill me. You little girls, get out of my way.
Doc, are you in there? Doc.
Up here.
Where?
Here. Up here.
What are you doing up there?
Well, it seems the plant behind you was planning on eating me. At least until you showed up.
What? Oh, crap.
Oh, I'll miss you, old friend. But it will be nice to be able to watch the cold eyes of Spooky Ted without hearing your constant complaining.
I refuse to be plant food today, you overly aggressive vegetable. Whoops.
Well, this wouldn't be the first time you were wrong. About anything.
Let go of that corpse, you big parsnip.
Captain Bone Marrow. Look, forget about him. The world will go on without him, but not without me.
Behind you! Pirate whose name I've forgotten just now?
Our plant people. You'll not squirt me with your plant venom, mother.
Mother?
Curse you, emotional scarring. How dare you rear your ugly head at such an inopportune time? Mr. Despicable, try to land on your feet.
What?
Strange. I was certain you mad scientist always landed on your feet.
That's cats, you block-headed buccaneer.
Take this, monster plant!
And pray tell, what was that supposed to do?
Not really sure, but I like being spontaneous.
What is all that noise? Are you guys jello wrestling or something? Oh, pretty plant! I must give you a hug.
Get away from that plant. That's an order. You still owe me $5.
Big plant hugs.
Amazing. The plant is reacting to Salty Sam's saltiness.
Oh, plant fall down, go boom.
Move out of the way, Sam. I'll cut the zombie astronaut out.
Wow, that was really uncomfortable. So what in the heck did you do, Doc?
Oh, not a lot, really. My first customer seemed to like his plant so much I decided to, improve upon JC Parrigin's gardening stock. You should see the peonies.
Doc, this store is a wreck. Half the customers have been eaten or are turning into plant people. The authorities will definitely notice this time.
Oh, Zombie, you are such a little drama queen. I doubt anyone's even noticed my horticultural experiment.
This is Channel 13's Action News Extreme with Bob Wolfenbridgen.
This is Bob Wolfenbridgen with a special report. The local JC Parrigin's department store in Glendale, Arizona, is being overrun with giant plant life. With so much of our military overseas, the U.S. government has called out the Shriners. Scientists all over the world blame mad scientist Dr. Despicable, while the GOP blames HGTV. I happen to think it's UFOs. With more on this story, here's Steve Martin on the scene of the disaster. Steve?
Thank you, Bob. Glendale. Arid desert landscape or lush, fertile jungle of evil. As giant plants crush this local department store, one has to wonder when Godzilla will arrive to fight the vicious threat, while Japanese fighter planes bomb the bejesus out of them. Bob, it's just a matter of time. We're now speaking to Glendale Police Sergeant Alexander Staccato. Sergeant Staccato.
Ah! The voices have returned!
Sergeant Staccato, over here.
Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there.
You and your men have been shooting at these plants for 30 minutes now. Have you seen any results?
Not really. We did kill 3 customers accidentally.
Oops. My bad.
4 accidental customer deaths.
Considering how ineffectual the gunfire has been, will you try a new approach?
No, probably not. Guns are so cool.
So, for the time being, the guns continue to blaze. But any minute now, the Glendale Police Department will call in the tiny Japanese twins to summon Mothra with their tiny Japanese hop song.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, Gamera, perhaps?
All right, what are we up against?
All right, let's see. Giant flesh-digesting plants.
Okay, what else?
There's the plant people. And their plant people venom.
There's the creeping vines with their awesome ninja-like creeping vine claws.
Sam can keep hugging the giant plants.
I love the giant plants.
Yes, but he can't hug the plant people spitting venom.
Or the creeping vines.
With the awesome claw-like creeping ninja vine.
Oh, we are so screwed.
I can keep slicing up the plant people.
Can you take on the plant people and the creeping vines?
Like awesome vine-like creeping claw ninjas.
We are so screwed.
I would need a sharper cutlass.
What if I used you for an inhuman shield?
What?
Well, I'm quite an important figure. I can't be harmed.
What about me?
Nothing personal, but your soul last week, my friend.
What?
You are kind of old. Not old enough to be old school, but just old enough to be, well, old.
Like claw-like, awesome vine-like creeping ninja vines. Awesomes.
While we try to figure something out, here's our last bit of plant-related OTR. When I first planned to do the second ever plant-related podcast, I originally wanted to play the CBS Radio Mystery Theater's The Vampire Plant and the Mysterious Traveler's The Green Plague, sometimes known as The Green Death. When I actually went back and listened to both shows, I noticed they didn't sound too good. The CBS Radio Mystery Theater episode sounds okay for the first 2/3, and then it gets this horrible high-pitched whine, which is due to a combination of 2 things. Firstly, the high-end recording technique called sticking a tape player next to a radio speaker, and secondly, turning said radio speaker up so loud that it starts to peg. And the Green Death just sounded mumbly, so I didn't want to use them as is. That being the case, we'd like to offer you a new Flights of Fright, our version of the Green Plague.
Zombie Astronaut's Flights of Fright.
The Green Plague by Robert A. Howard.
That freedom doesn't simply mean that you have the right to do anything you want to do.
For those of you who are still listening in, who haven't fled yet, I have a confession to make to you, the American people. The enemy is advancing across the countryside at a speed of 15 miles an hour, and I, Stephen Reynolds, am responsible for the enemy's presence. I, and I alone, betrayed you. It wasn't intentional, and yet that's a small comfort to those of you fleeing for your lives. Before you condemn me, those of you who may still be hearing my voice, please listen and try to understand. Perhaps if you hear my story exactly as it happened, you may find it in your hearts to forgive me. It began a year ago at the Lindbergh Country Club, not far from the campus of State University. A banquet was being held in honor of Dr. Charles Warren in recognition of his vast contribution to organic chemistry. The main speaker at the banquet was the governor of the state, who was there to speak in tribute to Dr. Warren.
We who know Dr. Warren and his brave work can only join in the worldwide tribute that he has won with his discovery of Nerilium, the new miracle organic soil compound. But on this happy occasion, it is my privilege to bestow on Dr. Warren State University's highest award, the Dupé Medal of Science.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed a happy moment in my life. For scientists, there can be no greater reward than in serving our fellow man and bringing knowledge and light where there was none. The discovery of Nerilium brings a new era. With this new organic compound, man is now able to revitalize soil that has been barren for hundreds of years. That the dream has become a reality, I owe largely to those of you who made my research through all these years possible. Without your kindness and valuable aid, the discovery of Nerilium would not have been possible.
This is exciting.
Yes, this is a great moment in your father's life, Anne. He's now one of the immortals of science. Let's go out onto the lawn and talk.
I've never seen so many newspapermen in all my life.
Yeah, this is a big story. Your father will undoubtedly win the Nobel Prize.
You really think so?
Oh, he can't miss. You may not realize this, but you're the daughter of a famous man now.
One of these days, I'll be the wife of a famous scientist. That is, if you haven't changed your mind about marrying me.
That's one thing I'll never change my mind about.
I've never been so happy.
Nor I. You're going to have everything you want, Anne. A lovely home, jewels, servants.
I'll settle for this.
You've never known poverty, Anne. That's why you don't realize how important money is. We're going to have money, and a great deal of it very soon.
Where's it coming from?
For the past few months, I've been working secretly on an experiment. If I meet with success, and I expect to, we'll be wealthy beyond our dreams.
An experiment? What sort of experiment?
Your father, after years of research, has discovered an organic compound that revitalizes barren soil. My experiment, Anne, approaches the problem of food productivity on a different basis.
How?
Can you imagine what it would mean to mankind if a wheat crop could be grown in 2 weeks instead of the 4 months it takes? Think of 10 wheat crops a year, where before there had only been 2.
But that's impossible.
Nothing's impossible. Think of it, Anne. Crops literally growing overnight. A food abundance such as the world has never known before.
But how?
I'm experimenting with a new chemical formula, which has chlorophyll as its base. This formula will assist nature, accelerate the growth of plant life 100-fold. I've already had some small success, but I haven't reached the ultimate goal yet.
And when you do?
When I do? Why, 1 gallon of this new formula sprayed over an acre of land will produce a crop almost overnight. I'll be world famous, Anne. A millionaire.
A millionaire.
Of course. This new formula of mine, when perfected, will put your father's soil compound Nerilium... Well, it won't be very important in the face of my discovery.
Steve, this experiment, is it important because it will be a great scientific advance? Or because it will make you wealthy?
Why, I'm working for science and humanity, Anne, you know that. But there's no harm in wanting to be wealthy, is there? I know now that what I said to Anne wasn't true. I wasn't working for humanity. I was working for Steve Reynolds, and a huge reward and honor that could be won. Yes, I wanted success more than anything else in life, no matter what the cost. In the months that followed, I worked day and night, rarely leaving the laboratory. One experiment followed another as I searched for the right formula. Then one day I was called by Dr. Warren's secretary and asked to come to his office.
Steve, I have here your progress reports for the past 6 months. You seem to have made little, if any, progress in your study on soil erosion.
Well, to tell the truth, I've given up my study of soil erosion. I'm working on something else.
From your report, I'd guessed as much. Steve, I dislike saying this, but we can't ignore the obligations of your fellowship. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you on behalf of the trustees to give up whatever experiments you're engaged in.
I won't do it. I've been at it months, working day and night on this experiment. I'm too close to success now to give it up.
Steve.
When I've succeeded, and I will, I'll be world famous, wealthy, one of the great scientists of all time.
I see.
You've got to keep that progress report of mine from the trustees so they don't interfere. There must be some excuse you could give them.
I'm sorry, Steve, but I must pass it along to them. Those are the rules.
I'm asking you to break the rules.
I can't. Not for you, myself, or anyone else.
Anne has told you of my experiments, hasn't she?
Why, no,
You don't want me to succeed, do you? That's why you won't help me.
No, Steve, you're just overworked, nervous. Otherwise, you just...
Nothing will stop me, do you hear? Not you, nor the trustees, or the whole university. I'll go on with my experiments, and I'll succeed. Come in.
Steve?
Oh, it's you, Anne.
What's this father tells me? That you've quarreled? And you've resigned your fellowship?
That's right. I'm putting my things out of this lab and I'm leaving.
Where are you going?
I've rented a small farm 20 miles out of town. I'm going to continue my experiments there.
Steve, you can't leave the university. Not like this. It'll be a mark against your career.
Before I'm finished, your father, the trustees, and the whole university will come to me hat in hand.
You speak of father as though he were your enemy.
He's no friend, that I can tell you. If he'd have wanted, he could have withheld that report from the trustees.
You're so determined to achieve success that you're blind to everything else. You've lost all sense of perspective.
Then you're on your father's side.
Yes, because he's right. You value fame and money above everything else.
And why not? Is there anything else in the world that counts?
Steve, you're like a stranger. I think our being married would be a mistake.
Perhaps it would.
Here's your ring. Bye.
When Anne left, I knew I was really alone. I moved my belongings into the farmhouse I'd rented and set up a small laboratory there. I went back to working day and night, for I knew it was a race against time. I had exactly $700 to my name, and once that was gone, I'd have to find a job. The week that followed was one of unceasing work. One experiment followed another, as I sought that elusive formula which would accelerate growth in plant life 100-fold. In those few moments of rest I took, I would think of Anne. Only my work kept me from going to her and apologizing. Just a minute. Anne!
Oh, Steve.
Anne.
I couldn't be away any longer, knowing you were here alone.
You've forgiven me for the way I acted?
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, Steve, you don't look well at all. Your eyes are so bloodshot. You've lost weight.
Oh, I've been so busy, half the time I forget to eat.
How's your work coming?
Not so well. I'm on the right trail. I know I am, but I haven't been able to perfect the formula. I'm working on experiment 87 now.
How long can you go on this way?
You needn't worry, Anne. Even if I wanted to go on, I can't. My money's just about gone.
Darling, don't feel too badly about it.
Anne, I'm so close to succeeding. I know I am.
But it isn't as though you can't pick up your experiments after this, Steve. After you've had some rest and a chance to think everything out.
Yes, I suppose you're right. Come inside. I'll show you the lab I've fixed up.
Yes, darling.
I haven't got the fancy equipment that was available at the university, but I do have everything I need. Here we are.
It's so crowded around here.
Yes, you see, this experiment called for small separate box of Earth. There's 87 boxes in the room, that's why it's so crowded. Over there's the box of formula number 1, and there are the boxes all across the floor to...
What's the matter, Steve?
Anne, formula 87.
Formula 87?
That box over there. Anne, look! Plant growth. 4 sprouts.
What about it, Steve?
This morning at 7 o'clock, I planted 4 seeds in this box, and I injected the soil with formula 87.
This morning at 7?
Yes, it's now noon. These sprouts grew in 5 hours.
5 hours?
Anne, I think I've succeeded. I've found the formula.
Steve, I have the strange feeling that I can see those sprouts growing before my very eyes.
They are.
Those sprouts, what are they?
Tomatoes. If this rate of growth continues, Anne, by noon tomorrow, these plants will have matured. They'll be bearing ripe tomatoes. Who is it?
It's Anne, darling.
Oh, just a minute. Good morning, Anne.
Hi.
Dr. Warren.
Anne told me of your amazing discovery, Steve. I hope you don't mind my coming here with her.
Hello, of course not. Come in. I must have overslept. What time is it?
9 o'clock.
The tomato plants. Come along.
Steve, the plants.
They're mature and bearing full-grown green tomatoes.
And these plants are from the seeds you planted only yesterday morning?
Yes, here are my notes. 7 a.m., 4 tomato seeds planted. 7:05, 250 cc's of Formula 87 injected into the soil.
Well, that's incredible. Simply incredible.
In a few more hours, those tomatoes will be ripe, ready to be eaten, just 30 hours after I planted the seeds.
Formula 87 will mean the end of famine. Why, families will be able to grow their own fruits and vegetables almost overnight, using a few square yards of earth.
Yes, come out into the garden. There's more to see.
More to see?
Yes. Yesterday afternoon, after Anne left, I planted an acre of tomatoes. I even sprayed the acre with 5 gallons of Formula 87.
Steve!
Look, Doc, the acre is completely covered with half-grown tomato plants. By late this afternoon, those plants will produce a crop of ripe tomatoes.
I wonder if you fully realize the implications of your discovery, Steve. It means the end of agricultural life as man has known it for hundreds of years. With your discovery, a new era has begun for mankind.
Yes, as we sat there in the garden, there could be no question that every man, woman, and child on Earth would be affected by my discovery. With no urging on my part, Anne and Dr. Warren stayed on. They were too entranced to leave the garden and the plants that were growing before their very eyes. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, there was an acre of completely ripened tomatoes ready for consumption. Dr. Warren, Anne, and I returned to the house, and I persuaded them to stay overnight. We were all up at dawn, eager to see the plant growth that had taken place during the night. It was Dr. Warren who, as he led us into the garden, made the startling discovery.
Steve, look!
What is it, Doctor? All I see is an acre of overripe tomatoes.
The plant life surrounding the acre.
Well, that's nothing but dense overgrowth, Father. Weeds, vines, wild grasses.
Oh, look how thick it is. It's all of 6 feet high.
You're right. Yesterday there was nothing there to speak of. The weeds were just knee-high.
Yes, I recall.
What does it mean?
Well, apparently, when I sprayed the acre where I planted, some of Formula 87 carried a little beyond, causing those weeds and other plants to grow overnight to 6 feet.
Yeah. The question now is, have they stopped growing?
Well, come along. Let's have a look.
Take a look at those weeds. And the other plants. It's like a jungle growth.
Jungle growth. Yes, I was thinking the same. It's difficult to tell here how far it extends.
Well, it can't be more than a few feet beyond where I sprayed the acre.
Here we are.
Let's walk through it. See how deep it is.
All right.
The two of you better follow the path I'm making. It's pretty dense through here.
Yes. We're almost 30 feet into this growth. How much further does it extend?
I don't know. Can't tell yet.
It's like the high grass of the African veldt.
Yes, we've come quite a way now. Can't even see the farmhouse behind us anymore.
Steve, are you sure we haven't been going in circles? It can't have extended this far.
We've been walking a straight line. I've been following the sun.
Dad, how far do you think we've come?
Oh, at least 100 yards.
Hey, the growth is beginning to thin out. I think we've reached the outer fringe of it. Yes, here's the field.
Oh, thank goodness we're out of that.
Steve, do you realize how many acres that growth covers?
At least 10 acres. And it all sprang up since late yesterday afternoon. What do you make of it, Doctor?
This Formula 87 of yours, it not only accelerates the growth of plant life 100-fold where sprayed, but also affects the surrounding acreage.
What is it in Formula 87 that's causing it to spread?
You must realize, Anne, that in this new formula we're dealing with the unknown. Perhaps Steve can explain why it caused this growth on an additional 10 acres.
No, I can't, Doctor. It's as much a puzzle to me as it is to you.
What are you doing, Steve?
Stacking a few small rocks to mark how far the growth extends, as of this moment.
As of this moment?
Yes, Anne. Just in the few minutes we've been here, the growth has continued. And it's spreading.
Good morning. This is Bill Storm with the 9 o'clock news. Well, startling news has been coming in over the press wires in the last 10 minutes. A young associate professor, Steve Reynolds of State University, discovered a new chemical formula which has the power to accelerate plant growth 100-fold. While engaged in experiments on his farm 20 miles outside of Statesville, Professor Reynolds sprayed an acre of land with his new discovery, Formula 87. One of the amazing results of this experiment was the growth overnight of a 1-acre crop of tomatoes. But another result, which seems almost incredible to this reporter, is the news that Formula 87 caused plant life in the surrounding acreage to grow into a fantastic growth and to become so thick and profuse as to cause on-the-spot observers to compare it to jungle growth. Even more amazing, the growth seems to be spreading in all directions at the rate of 100 acres an hour. Already it has spread over 2,000 acres of land. Agricultural experts and scientists are being rushed to the scene of this phenomenon. Stay tuned for further news flashes during the day.
Steve.
Yes, Doctor.
Did the dynamite get any results?
None at all.
Well, here comes the governor.
There you are, Dr. Warren. All right, what's the latest word?
The growth is now spreading at the rate of a mile an hour in every direction.
Why, that means thousands of acres of valuable land turning into jungle every hour.
Yes, and once more it's spreading at accelerating speeds. By evening it'll be spreading at a rate of 3 miles an hour.
Haven't you been able to do anything to stop it?
We've tried dynamite, fire, all known poisons. I have the best scientific brains in the country working on the problem, but as yet we haven't been able to determine what it is that's causing this wild growth to spread.
Young man, this catastrophe is of your doing. Have you any idea what's causing this growth to spread in such a frightening manner?
I'm not certain, but I think Formula 87 created a new type of pollen, and it's the pollen which is spreading this growth.
New type of pollen? What makes you think that, Steve?
I just got a report that the growth has crossed the Ardmore River and spread to the opposite side.
The Ardmore River? Why, that's a half-mile wide.
And that's why I'm convinced it's a type of pollen of some sort that's carrying this plague.
You're probably right.
Well, can't you come up with a new spray? Something that will stop it?
We'll do what we can, Governor. We're not losing a minute.
What's going to happen, Doctor, when this jungle growth hits villages and towns? We've already had to evacuate the farmers.
Yes. We'll work day and night, Governor, to find an answer to all this.
This fantastic rate it's spreading, I better order out the National Guard and ask for assistance from Washington.
This is Bill Storm speaking to you from the state capitol. While the Green Plague continues to advance and Governor Thomas has declared a state of emergency, martial law has been imposed with the full approval of Washington. The Green Plague has spread over an area of 40,000 acres. 4 villages and 2 towns were evacuated shortly before they were engulfed by this advancing jungle growth, which scientists have been unable to explain or halt. The scientists state that the growth is accelerating its advance from hour to hour and is now moving at a rate of 15 miles an hour. Meanwhile, on-the-spot observers state that plants, vines, and trees are literally springing up before their very eyes, and that this fantastic and relentless growth is crushing and destroying all that which lies before it. All residents of the state capitol have been evacuated, and momentarily we expect orders to abandon this station. However, full news reports will be continually broadcast from other stations. Meanwhile, reports from Washington indicate that... Pardon? Oh, ladies and gentlemen,
I have just received the signal that this station is to be abandoned. Tune in to other stations for further news flashes.
Steve.
Leave?
Look, you two had better come with me. You heard the broadcast. We're about to abandon this station.
Come on, Steve.
What about those people who may not have been tuned in? Who may not know about the Green Plague?
Mr. Reynolds, I've done what I was told to do. I'm not responsible for people who didn't hear my warnings.
Well, I am.
Oh, because of,
Yes.
Well, we'd better get going. There's no time to discuss this.
Is the equipment still on?
Yes, why?
And leave with Mr. Storm. I'll follow later.
What are you gonna do?
Some people who may tune into the station may not know what's happened. I'm gonna stay a little while longer. Broadcast some more.
Then I'll stay too.
Look, I'm leaving. You better make up your mind in a hurry.
We're staying. For a while.
Okay, if that's the way you want it. So long.
Still not too late to change your mind.
No. Go ahead, Steve.
For those of you who are still listening in, who haven't fled yet, I have a confession to make to you, the American people. The enemy is advancing across the countryside at a speed of 15 miles an hour, and I, Stephen Reynolds, am responsible for the enemy's presence. I, and I alone, betrayed you. It wasn't intentional, and yet, that's a small comfort to those of you fleeing for your lives. Or were you still listening in? This is Stephen Reynolds speaking to you from the state capitol. This is to warn you that a terrible force of nature has been unleashed. I, and I alone, am responsible for what has happened, but that's of small comfort to those of you fleeing for your lives, unable to understand the disaster that was brought about by my experiments. Experiments I was interested in for a personal gain, not for the advancements of science and humanity. Perhaps that's the reason
Steve!
The Green Plague. It's reached town.
We've got to go.
Give me your hand.
It sounds almost like an earthquake.
This way, to the street.
It's growing before our very eyes.
The building across the street.
It's coming our way.
The Green Plague was written by Robert A. Howard and produced by W. Ralph Walters. Starring Ellie Hirschman as Steve Reynolds, Kim Giannopoulos as Ann Warren, Casey Locke as Dr. Warren. All other voices by W. Ralph Walters. The theme song was written by Norm Bourgeois and performed by SongstoWearPants2.com. All other music licensed by Big Fish Audio, Pro Samples, or written by W. Ralph Walters. The Zombie Astronaut's Flights of Fright has been released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivative license. You may share the work, but you must attribute the work to www.zombieastronaut.net. You may not sell this work, and you may not alter, transform, or build upon it. For more horror and sci-fi audio, visit www.zombieastronaut.net.
What do you mean, bad idea?
I don't think beating them in Candyland will work.
Not if we don't play dirty.
Candyland is juvenile. Operation. Now there's a game.
I have an idea.
Oh, seriously, just shoot me.
What if we just ate them?
What?
We chop them up and cook them. We throw away the yucky bits and eat the yummy bits.
That would be a better idea if it were my own. But he may have something.
If this place sells those Japanese knives they use to cut tin cans, I could chop them up faster.
You know, I'm a pretty good cook.
I'm salty. I could season food.
Ugh, what a nauseating proposal. But certainly a viable option.
He does have a point.
True. Very true.
He certainly is salty.
All right. I've devised a remarkable plan from the bits of Von Martinez's merely admirable little plan.
You are like a creeping like vine idea-stealing ninja. Claw.
Salty Sam, you go to Housewares and fetch me 2 of their largest hot plates, a Foreman grill with a bun warmer, and an economy-sized glue stick.
Aye, aye, Doc.
Zombie, you go to groceries and get every bottle of oil and vinegar you can.
Ooh, how about some marinade?
Oh, no time, no time.
Instant mashed potatoes?
Oh, well, Okay, yes, that does sound tasty. Bone marrow.
Aye, aye.
You go get those knives. You've got chopping to do, mister.
Aye, aye, Mr. Despicable.
Don Martinez, build us a nice dining set with whatever you can find. The dining room furniture at this store is flimsy and deplorable.
Oh, I love furniture.
And you, Dr. Despicable. What, me? Yes, you. We need some tools to build our Despicable super cooker, patent pending. Well, don't look at me. And why not? I got an earache. Earache my eye. And I'm too important for such menial work. You go. But I'm busy delegating. Oh, whatever. We all have to muck in these desperate times. Talk to the hand. What? Why, you... Hey, you started this. It's not my problem. Now look here, Despicable.
Stop arguing, you. You won?
Wow. If I didn't know better, I'd swear you went to slapping school.
I've got all the cooking thingies.
I've collected all available condiments on this handy scrapbooking cart.
And here's the table.
Now that's what I call a table.
Wow, that is very nice.
What in the world did you find to make such a nice dining room set out of?
Well, actually, I ran to IKEA.
So embarrassing.
Oh, now that's what I call cheating. Some mad scientist you are. Oh, drat.
What?
I couldn't get my insubordinate self to go for tools to aid me in putting together our atom-powered easy-bake super cookulator. Curse me, a pox on myself. Now, don't you start that again, Despicable.
Oh, wait, I have glitter glue. It was in the scrapbooking card.
Brilliant! Perfect! Sparkly! That never happened.
No, it did not.
There, finished.
Just in time. The plants are closing in.
Captain Bone Marrow, start chopping.
Come here, plants. Taste my ginsu.
I've got the oil heated.
The table is set.
Tommy, stop loading that cutter.
Consider it done.
Now we can all start eating. Oh, pass the salt, please.
Here I am.
Mashed potatoes, anyone?
This is so gross and meatless.
Well, you are not leaving this table until every bite is gone, young man.
Well, some of them did used to be people.
Oh, I'm so full, even my beard is fat.
I don't feel well.
We did it. We ate every deadly plant in JC Parrigin's, and only one question remains. Now does this lab coat make my butt look big?
Oh, you come here, you.
Captain Bone Marrow! Captain Bone Marrow! Captain, stop it!
This has been the Zombie Astronaut's Frequency of Fear. For more horror, sci-fi, and suspense audio, see the website at www.zombieastronaut.net. Right now!
Brent Hinks was Dr. Wilhelm von Martinez. Gwendolyn Jensen Woodard was Sheila. Bill Holweg was Bob Wolfenbridgen. Casey Locke was Steve Martin. Ellie Hirschman was Sergeant Staccato. Colin Snow was the Glendale Police Department. Dr. Despicable appears courtesy of Victor's Secret Push-Up Wonder Briefs. Make those buttocks pop with Wonder Briefs. All other voices were by W. Ralph Walters. The theme song was written and performed by Papa Suede. All other music licensed by Big Fish Audio or Pro Samples. For more Frequency of Fear, visit frequencyoffear.com.